Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 27th of September, now it's 12 o'clock, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment, but I will start with short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. Very short summary because according to reports that we are getting from Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms, there is no significant changes on any of the sectors of the front line. It's a usual stuff, artillery duels between the sides, recon operations and drone wars, constant struggle or constant local scale fights to improve current positions that sides are holding. Only questions at this point probably that still are unanswered is that when it comes to this land bridge between Crimea and Russia, question is, will Kiev regime be able to pull off a second wave of counteroffensive in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front line with simultaneous mass crossing of Dnieper River? And also question remains when it comes to northern sectors of the front line, will Russian side conduct large-scale offensive operations from Seversk to Kupiansk and entire Kharkov region directions before rainy season begins? And as time goes by, window of opportunity for both sides are closing, and me personally becoming quite skeptical when it comes to both these possibilities. So there may be no second wave of Ukrainian counteroffensive, and there may be no Russian large-scale offensive operations, at least before winter, when the ground will become again usable for heavy military equipment, because during the rainy season, during the Rasputitsa, no one side will be able to use heavy military equipment in the way that they would probably like to. And this is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on the front line. One may also note that Russian side is constantly increasing, continue to increase activity of Air Force, especially in Kherson and South Donetsk directions of the front line. And we on daily basis seeing videos now on internet of destruction of Ukrainian ammunition depots, Ukrainian points of concentration of Ukrainian manpower on military equipment, especially in these two directions. Although, of course, Russian frontline aviation is quite active in other sectors of the front also. And yes, this is it when it comes to short summary of the situation on the battlefield. No significant changes, no breakthroughs. And if you are interested to learn some more in detail about these local scale clashes between the sides, I highly recommend many channels that devote much more time to this topic, especially military summary, of course, Defense Politics Asia, for example, and of course, great channel of Alexander Mercuris, host of Duran show. You can see links under this video in description box in the recommendation list, where all the channels are, links are to all the channels that I personally watch on regular basis. And now let's continue with some other news. RIA Novosti is reporting about statements that Russian Defense Minister made yesterday during his meeting with the High Command of Russian Armed Forces. And during this meeting, Shoigu said that in this month, in September only, which is not yet done, Ukrainian forces lost more than 17,000 military personnel. And Shoigu was talking about KIAs, by the way. He was not talking about killed and wounded, because he used the word уничтоженные, which means that 17,000, more than 70,000 Ukrainian soldiers were killed in action in September, which is extremely high number. And in previous months, if you combine losses of Ukrainian side, according to Russian Defense Ministry, since the beginning, let's say, of this so-called Ukrainian counteroffensive, then we may come up with a number like 70,000-80,000, which is basically all strategic reserve that Ukrainian side has. So at this point, probably we would not be mistaken if we will say that Kiev regime has no strategic reserve left. It did use all it had to conduct these local scale offensive operations or counteroffensive, mainly in direction of Azov Sea, in Zaporozhye, South Donetsk sectors of the front line, but also in Bakhmut direction, by the way. If you remember, in the beginning of the summer, and since then, up till now, Ukrainian forces were trying to improve their positions on the flanks of Bakhmut, not really achieving anything, rather than denazifying and demilitarizing their own brigades. But well, at this point, because of this such high casualties on part of Ukrainian side, one may wonder how long Ukrainian forces will be able to withstand such a pressure, such a level of casualties, and what's gonna be next step for Kiev regime, because now question is rising not just about difficulties that Kiev regime will face to continue offensive operations, but question is rising: will Ukrainian forces be able to even defend positions that they are holding right now all along the front line because of extreme lack of manpower and military equipment? And by the way, Shoigu also noticed that during this month, Ukrainian side lost more than 2,700 pieces of military equipment, which is also immensely high number. And let's continue. By the way, RIA Novosti is reporting that, well, despite propaganda of Kiev regime and Western so-called elites and their media outlets that are controlled by these criminal forces in Ukraine and in the West, yesterday, during Shoigu's meeting with the high command of Russian military's video was distributed to public, in which you can clearly see head of Black Sea Fleet, Admiral Viktor Sokolov, who's supposed to be dead, by the way, if you believe Ukrainian side and Western so-called elites and their media or propaganda outlets. But he is alive and well, as you can see. And this is this person, by the way, here, participating in this meeting. And well, this information once again highlights that you cannot trust, by the way, anything that comes from Kiev regime and anything that comes from Western so-called elites or Western media, so-called media. You just cannot trust them. That's it. I do understand it's informational war is also going on, but by the way, nowadays Western so-called media and Western so-called elites and their puppets in Ukraine, they are just straight up lying, constantly, 100%. So there's no way you can trust them, by the way, no way. Let's continue. Unfortunately, society in Ukraine have been zombified, significant part of society zombified with this constant 24/7 propaganda. And in the Western world, situation is not much better, as I understand, because we did not see any large-scale protests from society when it comes to actions of their governments that are risking, by the way, to provoke global nuclear disaster. So because there is no large-scale protests, one may assume that unfortunately this propaganda of Western so-called elites are still working on majority of society in the West and in the Ukraine, of course. But anyway, let's continue. TASS news agency is reporting that head of Russian Security Council, chairman of Russian Security Council, Nikolai Patrushev, did made statements about Ukraine, by the way, and he said that at this moment, Moscow did not see any perspectives of ending this crisis in Ukraine, this conflict, which is a very pessimistic statement, of course, but same time very realistic also, because I don't see any chances to end this conflict right now also, and I guess none of us in our community see any chances to do so, if we are realistic. Things may change in foreseeable future, but right now, I guess statement of Patrushev is spot on. And by the way, Patrushev also, he was in Egypt. He may still in Egypt, by the way, and he did with official visit, and he did made statement and thank basically government of Egypt for staying neutral and not delivering weapons to Kiev regime, despite immense pressure from Washington, especially from Washington. And one may applaud Egypt definitely, and Egypt's government for withstanding such a pressure, because not all countries can do so, by the way. And well, Egypt even surprised me some way, because I was thinking, you know, maybe they will not withstand the pressure from US, but they did. At least for now, they did, and refused to supply Kiev regime with artillery shells and missiles for rocket artillery and so on. But anyway, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian Foreign Ministry did made statement. Official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, did made statement about a recent strike on Sevastopol by Kiev regime, during the which headquarters of Russian Black Sea Fleet was damaged, and one military personnel, according to official statements from Russian side, one military personnel, I guess guard of the building, was missing after that strike, and is missing after that strike, and which is much more believable, by the way, than statements from, let's say, Ukrainian side or Western so-called elites about neutralizing more than 30 officers, of high-ranking officers of Russian Black Sea Fleet, including commander of Russian Black Sea Fleet, during that strike on headquarters of Black Sea Fleet, because it's obvious that such buildings are primarily target for Ukrainian side. And why would anybody in Black Sea Fleet Command make decisions to stay in that building? It's that building was empty, as I understand, just some guards inside and on a perimeter of building. And unfortunately, during that strike, one of the guards was killed. And by the way, as I said, Maria Zakharova, official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, did made a statement about this recent strike, and she said that US and UK were actively involved in planning and conducting this strike on Sevastopol, and Russian side is conducting investigation about this involvement of US and UK. Well, I did say straight away when this happened that most likely US and UK were involved, because UK usually had planning and leading these drone operations on Black Sea Fleet and in Crimea direction, all operations of Ukrainian side. And simultaneously, of course, US is also involved, because whenever any strike are conducted in direction of Crimea, it's always usually US intelligence or surveillance planes or drones circulating over the Black Sea. So it's obvious. You don't have to be, say, like a scientist in quantum physics, by the way, to understand this, isn't it? It's just too simple to see links between these developments. And well, we have statement from Russian Foreign Ministry, strong statement, of course, and well, this is, by the way, basically acknowledgement that US and UK are conducting act of war against Russia. and let's see how will Moscow react. But as I said yesterday and quite a few times before, someone has to be grown up in the room, by the way, and this someone is Moscow, because we all see that the so-called Western elites or ruling class of the Western world, they have no reverse gear, by the way. They level of the degradation is so high that you cannot expect from them any adequacy whatsoever, or any adequate steps. And that's why Moscow is only adult in the room, and responsibility is extremely high on Moscow to make sure that this constant escalation of the Western elites against Russia will not provoke eventually full-scale war between the sides, because one should always remember that Russia is a nuclear superpower, by the way. And in Russian arsenal there is some 5,000 or 6,000 nuclear weapons that on their own can take out entire world several times, and there will be some left. There will be some nukes left. And US has almost the same number of nukes. So, you know. So that's why Moscow have to be cautious, by the way. I do see many angry comments why Moscow is not doing this and not doing that and not reacting this way or that way, but Moscow is only adult in the room, by the way. And I guess at this point, safety of the world depends on decisions that Moscow is making. Safety of entire world, and if Moscow will escalate in the way that many are asking for or expecting for, then world is doomed. You know, so Moscow have to be cautious, and that's why Moscow is basically acting somewhat soft, because yet again someone has to be adult in the room. Let's continue, and RIA Novosti is reporting about article that world famous and award-winning journalist, US journalist Seymour Hersh did write. He did spoke about Nordstream pipeline and this sabotage on Nordstream pipelines. It's a year past since this sabotage, and we have quite significant revelations from Seymour Hersh. His sources did share to him information that, for example, destruction of these pipelines had nothing to do with Ukraine. In reality, White House and the ruling class of US were planning just to increase their influence on Europe, especially on Germany, and that was basically main reason to destroy those pipelines, because if Nord Stream 2 will become operational, then, well, dependence, when Europe will basically become energy independent from US and significantly dependent on Russia, and Washington did not want this to happen. They destroy 3 from 4 pipelines, and simultaneously, of course, we cannot rule out interests of US energy sector, because now they are selling liquefied natural gas to Europe for very high prices, by the way, in comparison to Russian pipeline gas or even Russian LNG. So that's also, I guess, additional motivation for White House and decision makers in the US, real decision makers. And also, by the way, Seymour Hersh did said in his article that he said that there is no any data that will indicate that Joe Biden ever asked intelligence not to conduct such an operation. So when he was informed about it, that such operation is planned, not even once Joe Biden questioned these actions. So he was fully on board, by the way, to conduct this act of international terrorism. As Russia classified these strikes on pipelines, and not just Russia, by the way, outside of Western world, everyone does classify those attacks as act of international terrorism. So, by the way, Biden is definitely fully responsible for what happened, and also very interesting revelations from Hersh's article that Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, knew about these plans. He knew about these plans. Probably US Secret Services did share information with the BMD, that's the name of German's Secret Service, I guess, if I'm not mistaken, and they did share information probably with BMD, and BMD probably informed the Chancellor about it, and he did nothing. He just did nothing, by the way. He did not protect Germany's strategic interests. He did not defend Germany's society's, German citizens' interests. He did nothing whatsoever, which is, by all accounts, is a treason. By all accounts, this inaction of Scholz is a treason. But yet again, who's gonna demand answers from him if society in Germany, majority of society, is still under influence of this crazy Western propaganda, crazy propaganda of Western so-called elites. I mean, I see many actions of protest in different cities of Germany, small, relatively small demonstrations, but until majority of German society is on the board with current leadership of that country, I don't think anything will change. So let's continue. And by the way, many countries, I did share on my Telegram channel about information that many countries in the world did demand information about Western investigations about Nordstream pipelines to be revealed to public, and many countries are demanding Russia to be involved in investigations because they do trust Russia much more than they trust, let's say, Denmark, Norway, or Sweden, who did conduct investigations, or Germany's leadership, by the way, on this regard. Let's continue, and RIA Novosti is reporting that Swiss leadership, Swiss lawmakers did make the decision to take out from exploitation 25 Leopard 2 tanks, and these tanks to be sold back to Germany. And formally, Swiss government is saying that Germany is obligating itself not to deploy these tanks, not to give these tanks to Kiev regime. But come on, man, we all know what is going on. Swiss is acting in a way to have some plausible deniability that it's a still neutral state, kind of. And if these tanks will end up in Germany, it's nothing. It will have nothing to do with Switzerland, but we all know this game well, and we don't trust no more such a cheap actions, such cheap policies of any government, by the way, any government anywhere, but especially when it comes to these so-called neutral states. Eventually, these tanks probably will end up in Ukraine. Of course, that's highly likely that will happen. And RIA Novosti is reporting, by the way, that Scholz and Baerbock, that's exactly what I was talking about like a few minutes ago. Scholz and Baerbock are on the road in Germany for elections. They are campaigning because even though both are from different parties, Baerbock is a Green Party, Scholz is another party. SDS, if I'm not mistaken, but anyway, they are in coalition, so they are campaigning, I guess together. And they did not everywhere in Germany was received with applause. In some places, according to Spiegel, by the way, German media outlet, according to Spiegel, at some places, Chancellor of Germany and Foreign Minister of Germany were booed by public, especially for their unconditional support of Kiev regime, which is yet again, one may applaud such a reaction of German public, but this didn't happen everywhere. And for now, we will be mistaken if we will think that majority of German society has waken up and knows what's going on in reality. It's not like that. I'm quite sure vast majority of German society is under influence of propaganda of Western elites, and they will support any crazy move that Scholz and Baerbock will made. Which is unfortunate, by the way, which is really unfortunate for everybody, not just for Germany, but for everybody in this world, because after all, especially Germany used to be seen as a practical thinking state, and nowadays as the leader of EU. And the fact that Germany was leader of EU was reassuring, kind of, that EU will act or behave in adequate manner. But now, when we see what kind of individuals are running Germany, of course, it's a shame. By the way, shame for Germany, shame for Europe, and the entire world is kind of probably shocked by this. But anyway, let's continue. Very same Annalena Baerbock, foreign minister of Germany, was basically forced to acknowledge that some weapons that Germany is delivering to Kiev regime is faulty and extremely old, which is true, by the way. And what else she could say when even Kiev regime refused to receive some Leopard 1 tanks because those tanks were just in unworkable, unrepairable condition. And by the way, when Denmark sent some 20 tanks, 20 Leopard 1 A5 tanks to replace these broken German Leopard 1s, 12 out of 20 Leopard 1s of Danish Leopard 1s were also in unworkable condition. So what else they can say other than acknowledge that, yes, they are sending some faulty equipment to Kiev regime. And that's once again highlights state of defense industry and state of armed forces of many EU states, including Germany, by the way. Including Germany. Let's continue, and RT is reporting that the US court finds Donald Trump guilty of fraud. This happened in New York, by the way. New York, a city that run by neolibs, and I guess judiciary system in New York is extremely politicized. So when I see this article, I mean, first thoughts was that a political decision. Of course, man. These neoliberals are so discredited themselves so much so that anyone probably will find difficult to trust them ever. And well, this pressure or attempts to prosecute Donald Trump definitely received by majority in this world, I guess, as I see it, as a political prosecution. And even if, by the way, Donald Trump did some wrong, it's gonna be very difficult to prove it to us, worldwide community, because we just don't trust current leadership of US. We don't trust judiciary system of US because it's discredited, by the way. It's just, you know, and that some 30, 40 years ago, not that long ago, US was kind of model for world. US judiciary system was kind of a prime example. Political system was a prime example, kind of, because of the stability it provides. But now, when people are see what is going on in US, man, wow. So I guess this process will continue. Donald Trump will continue its fight with all these crazy charges, but I don't think neoliberals are stopping, by the way. They aren't gonna stop, and they will definitely, until the end, try to somehow remove Trump from this presidential race. And just recently I did saw some ratings, by the way, and Trump is, even if all other candidates combine their percentage points of support, Trump will be ahead of them by significant margin. That's how popular Trump is among US citizens. And neolibs know it, neocons know it, they also don't like him. And well, I said many times before, by the way, that if I was advisor to Trump, I will definitely tell him to increase, to take care of himself and increase its security, because one thing is when these neolibs are trying, or Biden's administration is trying to prosecute, to politically prosecute him, to use these state institutions to take him down. But if they are unsuccessful, where is the guarantees that they will not use other means to neutralize Trump? So, you know, and let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting about very interesting development. How long is this update? 32 minutes. Okay, I will just go through headlines. And this is quite interesting, by the way, because Polish state TV station, by the way, TVP, did report, a journalist of this station, by the way, Dominika Kosic, citing undisclosed source, is stating that Germany Germany and France, with the participation of Kiev regime, by the way, are trying to conduct some regime change in Poland, because it seems like government of France, government of Germany, they are not happy with the leadership of Poland. Maybe because of their strong stance in some areas, and maybe because, for example, when it comes to relationships between Poland and Germany, we all know that these two countries are not really on friendly terms. And well, let's see how this information will develop. But this is, by the way, state TV station, journalist of state TV station. I don't think she will say anything like that without having the permission from Warsaw, from official Warsaw. And well, something is definitely in preparations. Something is going on, and probably in upcoming days or weeks we will learn what exactly. But fixation on Kiev, by the way, is very important, because we are on daily basis almost now have more and more informations that can be used by Warsaw as a justification for future inevitable future escalation with Kiev and inevitable deployment of Polish forces in western regions of Ukraine that was part of Poland before Second World War. So that's also one way that I see this news, because as I said many times before, by the way, Warsaw will definitely try to establish control over the lost territories in Western Ukraine, and they need reasonings for this, and we are now seeing before our eyes this reasoning being created, not just one or two, but many. And this will continue. This will continue, and relationships between Warsaw and Kiev will, of course, eventually end not very well for Kiev regime. And when it comes to France and Germany's involvement, well, they have difficult relationships with the Eastern European states in general, especially with Poland, also with Hungary, by the way. So I'm not really surprised that they want to put in power, let's say, in Eastern European states, individuals that are more easily controlled. So let's see how the situation develops. Andrea Novosti also reporting that Speaker of Canadian Parliament resigned after this scandal with the SS Galicia division's member was celebrated in Canadian Parliament, which did shock the entire world, by the way. But is it enough that Speaker of Parliament in Canada resigned? Is it enough? And by the way, I did listen to Trudeau, his apologies, and he did apologize before Jewish community of Canada, but he didn't apologize before Russian society. He didn't apologize before all the republics of former Soviet Union. He didn't apologize to Poland, to Polish society. He didn't apologize for Slovakian society. Why? That was quite awkward, really, because this SS division, Galicia, was involved in mass murders and killings of not just Jews, by the way, but Polish ethnic Poles also. They killed tens of thousands of ethnic Poles, probably more Poles than Jews. And they did kill tens of thousands of Russians. If we are going towards line of ethnicities, then they killed thousands and thousands of Russians, Belarusians, and just everyone. Every ethnic minority and religious minority when it comes to Jewish society, Jewish people that were living in that particular area of Western Ukraine where these criminals were operating, this SS division. So that was quite awkward. Of course, he should apologize before Jewish community, but he should also apologize to all other people. And Poland is very pissed, by the way. Poland is very pissed with these reactions, these steps from Canada, and they are now even demanding this war criminal who was celebrated in Canadian Parliament to be extradited to Poland, to be, prosecuted, because crimes that these animals committed has no, cannot be forgiven ever. But anyway, at least current leadership of Canada is acknowledging that it's not okay for the world to celebrate Nazi mass murderers. And by the way, if you think that was a kind of honest mistake on part of Speaker of Canadian Parliament or Canadian current leadership, you are very much mistaken, because look at this news here. In Canada, this Nazis have Ukrainian Nazis, by the way, have monuments for themselves, and this monument is still standing. And this monument is for exactly Nazis, Ukrainian Nazis that were part of SS divisions of Nazi Germany. And this is, by the way, this RIA Novosti's report here is based on the Toronto Sun media outlet's article. And it was this article, by the way, that did highlight about information about this monument that is standing in some cemetery, if I'm not mistaken, between to commemorate basically these Nazi Ukrainians that were fighting for SS. In this particular case, it's a 14th division of SS. So if you think this is something new for Canada, no, by the way, as I said quite a few times before in my updates, after Second World War, Western so-called elites were actively working with Nazis, After all, paperclip operation is everyone knows about it. And by the way, UK did send to Canada thousands of Nazis, Ukrainian Nazis, from SS divisions. And in Canada, by the way, there is a very big why is in Canada there are quite a big Ukrainian diaspora? Did anyone ask that question? How? That's how, by the way. And once UK sent some big part of these Nazis in Canada, then of course other Nazis did feel like Canada is a safe haven for them, and they moved there, and they have a quite big diaspora in Canada. And foreign minister of Canada, current foreign minister, if I'm not mistaken, is a granddaughter of Ukrainian Nazi, for example. And I would not be surprised if she's sharing very same ideology. If we take in account stand of Canada in this conflict in Ukraine, and if you take in account the very fact that happened a few days ago when entire Canadian leadership basically celebrated the Nazi mass murderer, Ukrainian Nazi mass murderer. And as I said, man, this is a monument to commemorate Nazi Ukrainians and Nazism. And this monument is standing in Canada. How did anyone allow this kind of stuff to happen? I don't know. But that's what it is, man. And let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting that experts are now, some experts are now predicting that a defeat of France in African continent is a kind of warning for US, because eventually US will also be forced to flee continent because of this movement, unstoppable movement and fight of people of African continent for sovereignty and independence, especially from colonial powers. And I guess yes, this is true. Eventually that's what will happen, and US ruling class probably understands this. And also, by the way, RIA Novosti is reporting that Putin, president of Russia, had a phone call with Lukashenko and president of Belarus, and two leaders made agreement to cooperate in a building of light planes, and also to build a new railway from Belarus to St. Petersburg, so that Belarus will have additional opportunities to export its goods worldwide using Russian trade corridors. And well, in this case, I guess we are talking about northern shipping route, which in my understanding will become this is, by the way, northern shipping route. And this shipping route, just give it a 10-15 minutes, by the way, and this one will be probably main shipping route or trade route when it comes to trade between Indo-Pacific region and Europe. So good developments, good developments. Integration of Russia and Belarus is continuing. And also, by the way, RT is reporting that German economy forecasts to shrink. Yet again, no surprises, but Germany's GDP is expected to shrink by 0.5% this year, as the EU's largest economy continues to struggle with an energy crisis and higher interest rates. The IMK Institute reported on Tuesday. Well, yet again, no surprises, by the way. Germany's leadership did everything. Germany's current leadership did everything to destroy economy of Germany, and they are quite successful in this. RT is also reporting that trade data reveals EU's dependence on Russian commodities. Well, also no surprises, by the way. Russia is one of the major exporters of different commodities in this world. And EU now, because of the sanction war that Western so-called elites are waging against Russia, because of the sanction wars, EU states are now forced to buy Russian commodities from third parties and pay significantly more. And of course, their dependence on Russian commodities did not really decrease, they just paying more, and that's it. Because now third parties are involved. And RT is also reporting that Russia to reduce oil discounts, which is good news for Russia, for sure, for Russian economy. And well, let me read several sentences. So Russian government plans to continue reducing the discount of Russia's flagship Urals blend of crude oil to the Brent benchmark. RBK Business Daily reports on Monday, citing a draft of the federal budget for 2024-2026. According to a report, the discount is expected to gradually decrease from the current $20 per barrel to $6 per barrel in 2026. And by the way, let me explain a little bit. Point is that Russian Urals Brent price is significantly based are related to price on the Brent crude oil. And if Brent, for example, costs $100 for a barrel, then Urals, because of discount on Russian oil, discount from Russian side, Urals will cost right now $80. So Russia imposes some $20 discounts. And for 2026, this discount will be only about $6, which is good for Russian economy for sure. It will Russia will have more revenues, of course, with these moves. And well, I'm quite sure China will regain its strength in coming years, and Chinese economy will begin to grow again in significant rate, which will of course increase worldwide demand on crude oil, and eventually in higher prices on oil, then more benefits are having oil exporter states, and Russia is one of the major ones in this regard, even though as a result of diversification of Russian economy, energy, although plays significant part for income, for example, for federal budget, there are some other sectors also, by the way, that are beginning to become a major export, major sources of federal budget's income. For example, agricultural sector. And when we are talking about Russia, by the way, Russia definitely has probably, I don't know, man, biggest potential in the world to become a major food basket for entire world. So potential for growth for agricultural sector is just huge. And then one point, agricultural sector may be major source of income for Russian budget, not oil and gas exports or other commodities. And this is it for now. Hopefully you will find this update interesting, plenty of news really. And if so, please consider to click that like button and leave some commentary about any topic you like. As I said many times before, more likes and comments probably will influence algorithm, extremely aggressive algorithm of YouTube, and probably will help me to reach wider audience. And for very same reason, if you can please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on any of the platforms that you are active on. And if you think this channel is interesting, useful, and deserves to exist, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, buy me a coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.